Hi there, Summoners! GuardianE here with another live reaction and first impression video for Fire Emblem Heroes. And tonight we should be getting the reveal of the next Mythic hero to drop into the game in just a couple of days. Now, I'm guessing, based on the timing and the fact that we are at the close of the book, that we're probably likely going to be getting GULLVEIG. That seems likely. I haven't really been following the prediction train, but I guess that's where my guess is going to go. So we got the trailer pulled up here. Let's go ahead and watch it together for the first time, just to get see who gets revealed. So we'll hit play and wait for the text to leave. Okay. All right. So new Mythic Heroes. Oh, it's gonna be it's gonna be like a double band. Oh yeah, of course. Okay. All right. Seer of the Past. So it's gonna be more GULLVEIGs, multiple GULLVEIGs in a matter of speaking. KVASIR. I'm probably butchering that name. But yeah, I forgot that she wasn't already in the game. So, Mythic KVASIR, Light is Time, attack speed catch 4, lull, speed res 4, incite attack speed. Lots of new stuff here. Okay. That's a really cool. I don't know. I don't think I've seen that attack animation yet, even though she's in the game currently. I don't think I had attack animations on, so that's my first time seeing it. That's actually pretty cool. And then it is in fact going to be GULLVEIG here. Golden Seer. The big book baddie. She is going to be a colorless infantry unit. And Quietus GULLVEIG. Interesting. Time is Light once again as the special Flared Sparrow. There we go. Oh man, that attack animation is awesome too. I don't know. Are those? Did they change them for the? Did they change them for the official release or no? I'm not sure. But of course, she gets a self refresh, which we know that was part of her original kit. Time is Light. That's a pretty cool special animation as well. Very nice. And then there she is. Okay, and I think she gets a Kanto afterwards, something like that. So there is going to be both a red and a colorless hero on this particular bout. It's going to be a double Mythic. We got Nerthus, got Byleth in here, Fallen Byleth, Haether, Guinevere, Aether as well. Okay, so really, really getting all of like the recent OCs like kind of all quartered in here together. Again, starting on the 28th of November and going for about 2 weeks. The two actual debut Mythic heroes are going to be on green and red for GULLVEIG and KVASIR, respectively. And that's interesting. That is interesting. And I didn't get a full look at all of the different heroes that are available on this banner, but based on that, you would think that they would actually... They do tend to stack the color for the debut hero, and if that's the case, then we may be looking at, two pretty stacked colors here. But let's rewind. Let's take a closer look at their kits. We've seen their art. I mean, their art really needs no introduction. Both of them, I think, look stellar from a design standpoint. GULLVEIG won Choose Your Legends based primarily on her design, I would say, largely, and for good reason. Again, Yoshiku doing an absolutely incredible job, not only on the design, but also the rendering, the details, and everything else about the art. Really fantastic work. KVASIR is going to be a cavalry red tome unit, and so we're going to take a look at her kit. So, Mythic KVASIR, 14 Might, accelerates special, so Killer Slaying effect at start of combat. If unit's HP is at least 25%, grants +5 to all stats, inflicts penalty on foes' speed and res equal to 15% of unit's speed at start of combat. Neutralize affects that guarantee foes' follow-up attacks and effects that prevent units' follow-up attacks. Grants special cooldown charge +1 to unit per attack during combat. And also, if it is unit's first combat initiated by unit or first combat initiated by foe that turn, reduces damage from foe's first attack by 70% during combat. And during brave effects, brave attacks, it would actually be both of the first 2 hits. They would both have the 70% damage reduction. If unit's HP is at least 25% at start of combat, after combat, if unit attacked, inflicts panic on target and foes within 2 spaces of target. Okay, so quite a potent red tome. A lot of great stuff packed in there. Killer Slaying Effect, stat boosts, the in-combat debuff to the enemy's speed and res that scales off of her speed is actually pretty neat. It's nice because that has some longevity to it. So in the current stat bracket, you would probably expect anywhere from 50 to 60 to maybe 70 speed at the start of combat. Remember, it's not in combat speed, it's actually just at the start of combat. So that being the case, you'd probably expect somewhere around, 15% of 50, 60, 70 would be around 7 or 8 speed. So a 7 or 8 speed debuff, in-combat debuff, that can't really be neutralized in most capacities to speed and res is quite significant. It's quite significant. Obviously, that's going to help her double. She's going to get special charge per attack. She's going to get damage reduction on the first initiation of every turn, whether that's by her or by the foe. And 70% is significant as well. And then inflicting panic on the target and foes within 2 spaces of the target is a nice little bonus, kind of tacked on to the end of that as well. Light is Time for the special. 5 cooldown. Boost damage by 60% of foe's attack when special triggers. Neutralize effects that inflict special cooldown charge minus X on unit during combat. Okay, so just an innate guard effect as part of the special. Alright, if unit initiates combat, unit special triggered, and unit survives, grants one of the following 2 effects after combat once per turn. If there's only one ally with the highest HP among allies within 2 spaces of unit who have already acted, grants another action to that ally. Allies with Sing or Dance can be granted this effect as well, and also, if that allies or their pair-up cohort's range is equal to 2, inflicts restricts movement to 1 space on that ally or pair-up cohort through their next action, otherwise grants Time's Gate to unit. Time's Gate. Allies within 4 spaces of unit can move to a space adjacent to unit that turn only. Okay, alright, so that's a ton of different effects. I mean, they've gotten more and more bold about kind of duct taping different effects onto unique specials. It's not something unique. We've had it in the game ever since Sigurd, I guess, maybe might have been one of the first ones to kind of get like a persistent booster effect as part of their special. But it's getting pretty pervasive. I mean, look at how huge this effect is. I mean, just having a persistent guard effect as part of the special that has no condition at all. It's not really necessarily linked to the special or any triggering of the special. It's just kind of there. So it's kind of an interesting approach, I guess, to kits. Just I guess an observation, I suppose. However, that as an aside, Light is Time is going to have a pretty massive cooldown at 5, 60% of foes attack when special triggers, and then Neutralize has that persistent guard effect, and then it's sort of unique. It's if she attacks and survives, and effectively she grants a refresh to one of her allies within 2 spaces that has the highest HP. If one of her allies with the most HP on her team is within 2 spaces. And then it has just a restriction around their movement, depending on if they are ranged. If they are ranged, then they can only move 1 space. So she'll grant a refresh to that unit, or otherwise, if there isn't that unit available, or the condition is not met, it grants Time's Gate to Kvasir. And what that does is Time's Gate, allies within 4 spaces of unit can move to a space adjacent to unit for that turn only. So she basically acts as sort of this beacon by which her allies within 4 spaces, which is pretty enormous range, is going to be able to teleport and warp right next to her. So interesting implications, a lot of potential shenanigans, a lot of scary movement ability and mobility with her allies when Light is Time is on the table, and not to mention, of course, the massive damage component too. The big cooldown element, obviously, with the Killer Slaying effect with her weapon, it is going to be at a 4-turn cooldown, and of course, she does gain additional special charge with every attack that she does. I'm guessing there's probably going to be another cooldown component to the rest of her kit here. Attack speed catch 4 for the A slot makes a lot of sense here. Of course, she wants to maximize her speed in particular with that whole scaling debuff and everything else. And of course, just going to let her do more damage and double more regularly. Lull speed res 4, so the tier 4 of the lull skills inflicts speed res minus X on foe, where X equals 4 plus number of bonus effects active on foe, max 8. Excludes stat bonuses, and neutralizes foes' bonuses to speed and res from skills like Fortify Rally during combat. Interesting. So it's 4 plus the number of bonus effects on your foe. Okay, alright, well certainly universally better than the tier 3 version, right, as you would expect. The combat debuff to speed and res is 4 plus the number of bonus effects active on foe, not including stat bonuses. So don't get me wrong, this is definitely going to be good, especially in this new paradigm that Intelligent Systems has created in Fire Emblem Heroes, where every unit has like 10 different unique bonus effects active on themselves that all do different things. And so this is obviously fits, part and parcel with that sort of world that they've created, that battlefield. I guess I just like to have a little bit more control over the skill, maybe. I like to have it more based around what I'm bringing to the battlefield versus what the enemy is. But that being said, again, I think in the current world order of how Fire Emblem Heroes is set up, the skill is going to do very well. Incite attack speed for the C slot. At start of turn, if number of allies adjacent to unit is less than or equal to 2, grants attack speed plus 6 and incited to unit for 1 turn. If number of allies adjacent to unit is less than or equal to 1, grants attack speed plus 3 to unit during combat. Interesting. Incited is, if unit initiates combat, grants bonus to units stats equal to number of spaces from start position to end position of unit during combat. Okay, alright, so that's kind of interesting. There's 2 different elements here, in addition to the introduction of a new buff, right? A new added effect. So breaking it down at the start of the turn, if she basically is around less than 2 allies, she gets a speed and attack buff of plus 6, and this incited effect. This new status effect incited as well, which will also give her a stat boost to all of her stats, based on the number of spaces she's moved that turn. So... So it's interesting, they've kind of like repurposed and shift things around. That's a skill that you would normally see as part of a Clash skill for the A slot, and now it's actually part of the C slot. And that actually leads to kind of the question, there's no limitation in that, so technically that should stack with a Clash skill. So if you had, I don't know what the limitations of this C slot skill is, but basically, there are certain, and I forget which units out there actually also have that built into like their weapon. So you can have, like, from a synergy perspective, you can inherit, like, all of these sort of Clash effects skills onto a unit so that basically every movement tile they move, they get, like, some ridiculous stat boost. I don't know. But that being said, my own personal bias, once again introduced into the mix, is I've never been the biggest fan of Clash skills either. So she kind of, like, it's interesting, she kind of has, like, a lot of things where I'm not the biggest fan of, but they're definitely going to work cohesively. They're going to work well together. Her weapon is great. It just has a lot of meat packed in there of things that you would want in an offensive mage like this. A lot of survivability baked in with the damage reduction and the stat boost, and the damage potential that she has with all of the stat debuffs and everything, and the special cooldown charge is sizable. But certainly I think the most interesting element to her kit is the combination of her weapon and her special. I think in tandem, there's going to be a lot of scary elements to this, just the built-in damage that she's going to be dishing out with Kvasir and Lightest Time together neutralizes a lot of things that will prevent her from being able to accomplish what she wants to do, which is basically do a lot of damage, double with impunity, proc her special, be able to grant another ally an additional turn, and then additionally be able to use herself as this like beacon for movement and movement shenanigans. And then next up we have GULLVEIG, who needs no introduction, a cavalry colorless tome unit, a sublime design, absolutely divine curves, just a head turner in every respect. Basically, Yoshiku has hit it out of the park with every single design in this entire book, and GULLVEIG is, of course, no exception to that. Alright, so Quietus GULLVEIG, 14 might, killer slaying effect. If unit initiates combat or foe's HP is at least 75% at start of combat, grants +5 to all stats, grants bonus to units attack and speed equal to 15% of unit speed at start of combat, inflict and neutralize effects that guarantee foes follow-up attacks and effects that prevent units follow-up attacks during combat. If unit initiates combat, reduces damage from foes first attack by 70% during combat and restores 7 HP to unit after combat. If a unit initiates combat, grants another action to unit after combat and restricts movement to one space on unit and pair up cohort through their next action. So this is going to be a different permutation of Kvasir's tome, which makes a lot of sense, right? It has a lot of the same themes going on. The killer slaying effect, the stat boosts with a certain HP condition of, well, in this case, the enemy or initiating combat. There's the whole scaling off of the speed stat of 15%, except for her, it's a bonus, whereas with Kvasir, it was a debuff. And then neutralizing the effects with the follow-ups, that's all the same. and then reduces you got damage reduction and then health restoration as well, and then also granting herself another action, which is something that we knew from the campaign was something that, that her tome gave her. So all very, very good stuff there. And then Time is Light. Her Time is Light is actually going to be different. It's actually a 3-turn cooldown. Boost damage by 45% of unit speed when special triggers. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, neutralize effects that inflicts special cooldown -X on unit during combat. So that's the same. If unit initiates combat, after combat, if unit special triggered and unit survives, grants another action to unit and inflicts restrict movement to one space on unit and pair up cohort through their next action once per turn. This effect has priority over similar effects. In such cases, these other similar effects are treated as if not having triggered. So if I am reading that right, and based on the demonstration that we saw with the first watch through, it seems like she self-refreshes twice. I mean, she self-refreshes from her weapon, and she self-refreshes from Time is Light, which means that she effectively gets 3 attacks, not including any dances or sings that can be used on her, but she by herself gets those effects. It's very selfish compared to Kvasir's, which makes a lot of sense, I think, right? In terms of theming and lore and flavor and all that. So effectively, the way it looks like this is going to work is that her weapon is going to give her an additional action after the refresh. Time is Light is also going to give her an additional action if it procced. Now, if both of them proc on the same action, or same attack, then the special is going to take priority. So Time is Light is going to get used up. That refresh is going to get used up. And then if GULLVEIG attacks again, then the weapon's refresh is going to get used up, because Time is Light can only happen once per turn. And then, similarly, the GULLVEIG's effect can only happen once per turn. So she's no matter what combination, as long as she's going to be able to proc her special, which she will, because she's going to be able to neutralize guard with her special. That does mean that effectively with every turn, every player phase turn, she's going to be able to self-refresh twice. That is significant, and that's not even considering the 45% of unit speed that is the bonus damage as part of the special, and the 3 cooldown versus Kvasir's 5-turn cooldown and 60% of her foe's attack. So very, very different takes on the same skill, and it kind of works with their personalities too a little bit, because Kvasir's sort of acts again as her being sort of a gateway, whereas with GULLVEIG, it's very selfish in that she's just trying to do as much damage, as many effects that she can take advantage of. Flared Sparrow for the A slot makes a lot of sense with her offensive capabilities. Occultist Strike for the B slot. If unit initiates combat, deals 7 damage to foe as combat begins. So that's going to stack with Flared Sparrow for a total of 14 fixed damage before the first hit. 14 damage is not a bad chunk of change to whittle down an enemy. And then Speed Res -4 on foe during combat and deals damage equal to 20% of foe's res. I mean, this is like a highly supercharged offensive B-slot skill. I feel like most B-slot skills are usually utility based. This is like all out on kind of like the damage dealing capability of GULLVEIG. So I feel, again, it feels like it's a little out of class. It seems really powerful and really potent. Obviously pairs very well with something like Flared Sparrow too. So it's a natural fit. And then Defense Res Smoke 3 for the C slot, which is fine. That's fine. It's the C slot here is definitely flex. I think there's definitely a lot of different options that she could utilize. Probably much better than Defense Res Smoke 3. I gotta say, GULLVEIG's kit as a whole is a lot more appealing to me than Kvasir's. Just in terms of how it all flows together and kind of what her game plan is, because a lot of it is selfish. It's not support based, which a lot of Kvasir stuff. It's like Kvasir is a little bit of a hybrid. She's definitely dealing a ton of damage. A lot of what she does is giving her effects to allies as well, and then also acting as sort of that gateway. And GULLVEIG's is more centered and more simplified, centered around her own damage, what she can do, self-refreshing twice, dealing more damage. So I think, to me, overall, I think GULLVEIG's is a little bit more effective. Kvasir's is a little trickier. I think there's going to be a lot of sneaky strategies around Kvasir's. It opens up a lot of different opportunities. It's more utility-based, but GULLVEIG's going to get in there, hit hard, do lots of damage, and do so with impunity. Yep, so 14 damage before the first hit, even. This is her attack, right? There she goes. And then She's got her special charged.
State your wishes.
She can move once. She's got a self-refresh. Flare Sparrow once again. Time is Light. So this is actually going to be the proccing of the refresh from Time is Light, right? Yeah, so she's going to refresh again right there. So yeah, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. So GULLVEIG and KVASIR are going to be colorless and red respectively. So let's start with colorless with GULLVEIG. So she's going to be accompanied by Guinevere and Fomortes. So that's definitely a stacked color. That is a stacked color. It's interesting because Fomortes, everybody that's been playing for any length of time at this point, has a copy of Fomortes because they gave one away. Of course, not to say that getting additional copies is not going to be useful, but that is an interesting, I guess, element to colorless as a whole. But very, very solid color. No question about that whatsoever. And KVASIR on red is going to be accompanied by Legendary Yuri and Fallen Byleth. It's actually an interesting pair, just together from a story perspective. But that being said, so quite strong. I mean, Fallen Byleth is very, very powerful, and Legendary Yuri is just a hypercharged Yuri that happens to be red. I guess the only drawback is that Fallen Byleth is not limited in any way. She's just in the regular summon pool. And she is very, very good. I mean, don't get me wrong. She's very, very, very strong, as Fallen units tend to be, and she's no exception to that. But again, she is in the regular pool. You can pull her on any banner as an off-focus, technically. And she will appear on other banners that are not, legendary or mythic or seasonal banners. So I guess that's a consideration, at least, when evaluating the color as a whole. Still very, very powerful options in there. If we take a look at blue, that's going to be Legendary Sita, Nerthuz, and Aether. Interesting. That's actually a really stacked color. That's arguably better than red. It has a lot of the heroes that have been revealed through this book. So they're recent heroes, very, very powerful at that. If you don't already have them, there's a lot of value there. So honestly, like, blue and red are pretty close, if not blue actually being better than red as a debut color. And then on green, we have Sather, we have Haether, and we have Legendary Robin. So this banner is actually just packed full of this book's heroes, interestingly enough, which I guess is appropriate for the conclusion of the book. But Sather and Haether, both really, really good. Legendary Robin is a menace. I mean, even though there are now some hard counters to what he does, in terms of the treachery and everything, just because they've introduced new skills to hard counter him does not neutralize his effectiveness as a whole, because he's just one component part of a team, and a hell of a component part at that. So yeah, green is honestly looking pretty good too. Sather and Haether are really, really good, and so I would probably put green on the same level as blue. I mean, the value on the banner as a whole is quite high. So I think you could even argue that red is kind of the lowest value on this banner, despite KVASIR being on red. But that being said, it's pretty close. I mean, I would say all the colors are pretty up there in terms of value. If you're missing any of the book heroes, because again, this is kind of your opportunity to like kind of go in and just collect the missing book heroes that you haven't gotten so far. But I would say that colorless does actually kind of like stand out a little bit. So once again, on the 28th of November and going for approximately 2 weeks, we have the double Mythic Hero banner of GULLVEIG and KVASIR. So they look great. The banner as a whole, again, is high value. There's a lot of just great units on it, a lot of recent units on it, because they're all from this last book, in addition to like some more recent releases. So it's looking really good. For me personally, I think that I would probably summon on green and blue. I have Nerthuz, but I'm definitely not going to say no to more copies of Nerthuz, and I think those would probably be the highest value for me. Maybe, at the very least, I do want to get GULLVEIG. So whether I do that on this banner or I wait for her to return, I'm not entirely sure. KVASIR, I certainly wouldn't say no to KVASIR either, but I think as a priority, I would probably prioritize GULLVEIG, but hey, let me know in the comments below if you're excited for this banner that I think pretty much everybody predicted was going to happen. Let me know if you're excited for this banner, which I think everybody kind of expected at this point, and if you are going to be pulling and summoning for these units. Wish you the best of luck. Hope you get all of the copies that you're looking for. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to leave us a like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more Fire Emblem Heroes content. We thank you all so much for watching, for taking time out of your day to spend with us. We really do appreciate it. And until next time, let's protect those skies.